I want to start. We've got 5 former football players who are graduating on Friday, and I'd be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to talk about, our mission is not just about, our current players. It's about former players and reaching out to our former players and making sure that reaches them as well in terms of assisting them and building a bridge so they can come back and graduate as well. Jay Ward, Jacoby Stevens, Grant Delpit, Trindon Holloway, and Kentravius Aubrey are all going to be graduating from LSU, and we're proud of those 5 for sticking to their commitment of earning their degree and being part of what we believe is our mission here, and that is graduating champions. So I wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate those 5. And again, it's sometimes difficult. You get distracted. Your life takes a different turn, and, priorities then change. But great to see these guys stick with it and, again, earn their degree from LSU. So we're really proud of them. Practice today, obviously, we were challenging our football team with the elements. We went, past our original threshold of about an hour to about an hour and 15, 20 minutes outside. The elements are what they are. They're real. But my sense is that we need to continue to add on to our exposure outside and, build a mindset that, obviously allows us to fight through those times that, mentally, we could possibly lose our concentration because of the environment. And I thought our guys did a pretty good job by and large. In particular, the last couple of periods were a blitz pickup period, which requires a lot of intensity and focus and concentration. I thought they did a really good job. So made some progress from yesterday in terms of the way we practiced, and that's what you're looking for. So I'm pleased with the progress that they made from yesterday to today. Again, we got a long way to go. We've got to continue to work on our conditioning level in these elements, and looks like the weather is going to cooperate. Looking at the long-range weather, I think we're in for a very warm August. So I think this is going to continue, and we'll be smart. We'll be careful with our guys, but we're going to continue to build on what we need to do to be ready for, our opener in Orlando, which I can guarantee is going to be extremely warm. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Hey, Coach, over here. Matthew Bruni, on 3. The cornerback position with guys like Ashton Stamps, LaTerrence Welsh getting reps, Deuce Chestnut, just what have you seen from all of them as you continue to evaluate?
Yeah, I think I see what you guys see. I mean, I think that, Deuce is a guy that's got a lot of football, Power 5 football. He's played a lot of winning football. He's competitive, smart. And so you're getting a veteran player there. Obviously, he had the surgery, so we didn't see a lot of him in the spring, but the things that really stood out for us in our evaluation was that he was a smart player, savvy, short tackler, and was always around the ball. And that's starting to kind of show itself here early on in camp. And again, we're 5 days in, so I'm not ready to, make any kind of bold statements, but he's making progress. LT is, I think he's built on, his spring performance. His spring game was outstanding. He's had a great summer, and he continues to get better each and every day. Ashton's a true freshman who put on, a lot of weight. I think many of you remember us recruiting him. He was a bit, I would say, underweight at the position for us, and we were excited about his competitiveness and his athleticism, but we challenged him to get after it in the weight room, and he certainly did in the off season and then this summer. And he looks the part. He's doing a really good job as a true freshman.
Hey, Coach. Michael Cottle, WBRZ. Jaden at Media Day said something which was interesting and it stood out. He wanted part of his legacy to be that of helping Nuss and Ricky as well. What kind of leadership are you seeing from that guy now that he's certainly comfortable, where he is?
Well, I think he's always been that kind of guy. I don't think I've ever seen him as somebody that has been selfish or thought about himself first. And I would say that those two guys, Ricky and Nuss, have been the same way. So I think it doesn't surprise me that I didn't hear the interview, but that those comments came out of his mouth, because I've seen that from him since he's arrived here on campus. I think now that he's in much more of a vocal leadership position, I think he can articulate his thoughts and feelings a little bit more, because he is, in that starting role right now. So I don't know that he was feeling as though those are some of the things that he needed to be talking about last year. But I think he's just in a different role this year, and probably just being who he was last year, but just in a different role.
Hey, Coach. Matt Moscona, ESPN Radio Baton Rouge. Can you give us an update on Jimmy Lindsay, and then also how John Jancic and Bob Diaco have done transitioning with basically a day's notice?
Yeah, we've gotten great reports. Jimmy, I believe, is going to be released from the hospital either today or it's really soon. There's a long road of recovery ahead for him, and then there's other things that he's going to have to handle that are personal and private for the family that they're going to have to deal with. But very encouraging, just the fact that I'm able to talk about it in terms of leaving the hospital. So really happy for Jimmy, and certainly Lauren, his wife, who's been there by his side every day. So a good bit of news there that we were able to get yesterday. John's been with me. I recruited John. John played for me. He was a coordinator for me, winning a national championship, coaching the defensive line, coached with me at Central Michigan, Cincinnati. He's coordinated in the SEC. So you have an experienced coach who knows how to build relationships with players. I don't think we miss a beat there at all. Excited about his ability to teach the techniques, and he works really well with Matt too. So you have not only somebody that has the experience, but we saw what he did with really working as an analyst, but really had Harold, excuse me, and working with Harold Perkins last year. I think you would say he did a pretty good job. So I feel really good about that. Bob Diaco, again, another guy that has been with me at a number of different stops, a great teacher, highly energetic. I know our special teams guys love coming to the meetings. He brings, like I said, a great passion to those teams, which I think we all know the game of special teams. Sometimes you need that. And I know that we're going to be sound fundamentally, and those guys are going to enjoy playing for him.
Hey, Coach Jacques Doucet, WAFB-TV. What was the thought process in bringing Trey Bradford back? What do you expect out of him, and how can he help this team?
Well, the thought process was just giving a man another chance, really. He had a long road. I mean, he had to get back into school on his own. We didn't help him. He had to do everything and do it on his own. And the way we left it with him was that, look, we're open to second chances here, but this one is on you. You've got to prove yourself. You've got to prove yourself to the university. And it's going to be up to the university to decide whether they want to re-enroll you. We're not going to make any calls. We're not writing any letters. And if you understand what the guidelines are and you're able to do that, and then you come here this summer and our strength coaches sign off on you that you've done everything to warrant an opportunity, then we'll invite you to camp. And both of those things happened. So he earned a second chance.
Hey, Coach. Koki Wright with the Advertiser. I was sort of curious with a guy like Mason Smith, how tough is it for a bigger defensive lineman like that to sort of regain that confidence in his knee after such a serious injury?
Well, I think there is a process that goes along with that, but I think a lot of that took place in the summer. The players did a lot of player-led practices where, he was involved in drill work and he was doing those things. So I think he vetted a lot of that out through the summer. And so when he came into camp, there hasn't been hesitation on his part. It hasn't been feeling his way through it as much. I'm sure there's going to be some, feeling his way out when it's the first game, over a year. But in answering your question, I think a lot of that hesitation has diminished because of what he did throughout the summer.
Do you think that wasn't just what you've seen over the last with yourself?
He looks pretty darn good to me. Yeah.
Hey, Brian. Sheldon Mickles at The Advocate. I know Thursday we talked to you about your young tight ends, and you only had one practice. Now that you have five in, what do you see about the younger guys other than Mason Taylor?
Yeah, including Mason Taylor. Obviously, Mason is back after the surgery where, you can see the potential that he has to be, an All-American type player at that position. He's smart, runs well, great hands, understands the blocking schemes. And then you look at, a bunch of younger players that all have, a huge upside, and they all are a little bit different. Mark Way, obviously caught the ball very well today, but, he's physical in line, and he gives you that version. I think you look at Pimpton and the size jumps out at you and the range, the catching range. I think all of them bring a little bit something different to the table, but all have made great progress. And I think in some fashion, depending on game plan and what we're doing, that they'll all get a chance to compete for us.
Coach Bryce Kuhn, 24/7 Sports. We talked with Mason yesterday, and he mentioned something that kind of stood out was being where your feet are. And is that a theme for this team? Is that something that you're kind of preaching of when talking about the outside noise, but just kind of being where you are today and worrying about that?
Yeah, it's impossible today when you think about NIL and gambling and transfers and all that swirling. It's hard to even, get into a process on a day-to-day basis if you're distracted from even getting there with all that's going around you. So we've made, I would say, a point on a day-to-day basis of making sure our players know why they're here. Why are you here? If it's to chase NIL, if it's to do these things that are on the peripheral, then you're going to be distracted from the ultimate goal, and that is to graduate and win a championship. So what centers you? And to me, what centers these guys is their values and their goals. And if they truly have values and goals, then that will center them throughout these distractions. So I think what Mason was saying is be where your feet are, is that what's grounding to you, and for these guys, it's their family, it's their faith. It's certainly about, wanting to be the best version of themselves.
Coach in the middle. We're going to talk to Mike Denbrock on Thursday. I was just curious, have you seen any changes in him now that you guys have been at this stop together? Anything rejuvenating to him or anything different to him in his approach?
I think just on a day-to-day basis, his comfort level with, what we're doing on a, from an offensive perspective, I think, he clearly knows the direction that we want to take, and there's no hesitancy. He doesn't feel like he has to keep me happy or, hey, I'm doing this for you. He knows exactly what's expected, and he can go without having to look over his shoulder. And because of that, he's assertive, makes those decisions that are in the best interest of the offense, and whether it's personnel or other, and it makes for a great working relationship.
Hey, Brian, Glenn Wesco, 247. Just with the running back room as a whole, now that you guys have 5 practices in, wondering if you could speak to just the rotations there. I mean, it really seems like you guys are still getting a lot of guys, a lot of reps, and just also about Caleb Jackson in particular. What have you seen out of him?
Well, he's big, he's physical, he's strong, but he's raw. And so a lot of the work with Caleb is ball security, low pads, the nuances of the game, which, when you have a physical, I don't want to use the word, but just a guy that has that kind of prowess at the position, those are good things to work on, right? We don't have to worry about some of the other things. So it's just the details with him, and that's a good thing. Trey's a little bit ahead in the sense that he had the spring, so he knows the playbook a little bit better. And then a collection of experienced backs that have, a different style. Each one of them has a little bit that they can offer. So, look, we got one football. That hasn't changed. So, we'll figure it out as it goes. But my guess is that, it always ends up coming back to the guys with the most experience end up kind of rising to the top and taking it over.
Yeah, Brian, right here front row. Ron Higgins, the Shreveport Bossier Journal. After the incident yesterday on the practice field, you pulled Harold aside and talked to him for a while. What was your message to Harold about that incident?
We were talking about his NIL. I think he was trying to get a John Deere NIL, and I think the 2 linemen already have one. And he thought that was probably a good idea not to get one. Yeah. Everything that happens out there are teaching moments, I mean, every day. I mean, that's like so far behind me, yesterday, because they're 18 to 21-year-olds. And so this morning, there were so many teaching moments down here in this hallway, in this locker room, that I forgot about yesterday. So, you deal with what happens in front of you, and you try to bring everything back to, what your process is and what you're trying to develop in your program. And so, there'll be moments like that similarly in a couple of days that I'll have to deal with that maybe you won't see, But every day's in my life as a coach is a teaching experience, and so you better take your chance to teach while that happens. And so we made it a teaching moment.
Coach Mike Scarborough at TigerBait.com. Your battle for punt return, how do you see that stacking up? What have you seen so far?
Well, I mean, I like what I see back there. I mean, Aaron's pretty fluid, if that's the right word. I mean, it comes natural to him. I think yesterday, Jay was kicking with the wind, and maybe he probably could have got back on a couple of balls a little sooner, but he is really natural with the football. Kyle Parker, I think, looks really good back there too. Clayton has been really money for us, so I like where we are there. I feel a whole lot better than I did last year at this time. So I feel really good about that and where we're going to go. And you know, I don't want to get out too far, but I believe it's going to be a positive weapon for us, and hope to see that come to fruition. Good. All right. Thank you.